أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم رسولا ونبيا. Picking up with the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام's legendary government military legacy, the era lifetimes of Sayyidina Umar bin Al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, video number 56 after completing a total of 50 videos, the era of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam's legendary military legacy, and 30 videos of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam's legendary military career. Moving on now to page number 259, 5.3 laws of Allah that were manifested in the conquest of Iraq in the eastern lands. By studying the conquest of Iraq and the eastern lands, the researcher will notice some of the laws of Allah with regard to societies, people, and states. The laws include the following: the law of cause. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says, and make ready against them all that you can of power, including steads of war, tanks, planes, missiles, artillery, to threaten the enemy of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and your enemy, and others besides whom you may not know, but whom Allah does know. And whatever you shall spend in the cause of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu should be repaid unto you, and you shall not be treated unjustly. Quran, Surah number 8, ayah number 60. Umar applied this ayah during his reign, employing both physical and spiritual means, as we have explained above. 5.3.2, the law of checking people by means of one another. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu Almighty says, and if Allah did not check one set of people by means of another, the earth would indeed be full of mischief. But Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is full of bounty to the Alameen, mankind, jinn, and all that exists. Quran number 200, ayah number 251, surah number 2. So, but Allah is full of bounty to the Alameen, to all of mankind, the jinn, and all that exists. This law was fulfilled by the conquest movement in general. This law is one of the most important laws of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu in creation, and is one of the most important laws that have to do with consolidating the position of the Muslim Ummah. The early Muslims understood this law and acted upon it. They knew that the truth needs resolve and determination to support it, efforts to make it prevail, hearts to love it, and emotions to be tied to it, and it needs human effort, because this is the law of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu in the life of this world, and this is a consistent law. 5.3.3, the law of testing. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says, or think you that you will enter paradise without such trials as came to those who passed away before you? They were afflicted with severe poverty and ailment, and were so shaken that even the messenger and those who believed along with him said, when will help come of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu? Yes, certainly the help of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is near. Surah number 2, ayah number 214. Calamities and tests came during the conquest of Iraq, particularly in the battle of the bridge of Abu Ubaid, when thousands of Muslimin were killed and their army was defeated. Then they regrouped and achieved great victories over the Persians. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says, you shall certainly be tried and tested in your wealth and properties and in your personal selves. Surah number 3, ayah number 186. It may be noted that the way in which this ayah states that the Muslim Ummah will be tested is stated in the most emphatic manner. This is the law of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu with regard to faith and calling others to faith. There has to be some calamity, some harm to wealth and self, and it is essential to be patient and stand firm. The law of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu concerning oppression and the oppressed. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says that is some of the news of the population which we relate to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of them, some are still standing and some have been already reaped. We wrong them not, but they wrong themselves. So their gods other than Allah whom they invoke profited them not when there came the command of your Lord, nor did they add aught to them but destruction. Such is the seizure of your Lord. When he seizes the population while they are doing wrong, verily his seizure is painful and severe. Quran Surah number 11, ayah number 100 to 102, the law of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu consistent, oppressing. The law of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is consistent. Oppressing nations will be destroyed. The Persian state had oppressed and wronged its subjects and had rebelled against the laws of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. So the law of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu was applied to them, and Allah caused the Muslimin to gain power over them, and thus they were eliminated. 5.3.5 The law of Allah concerning those who live a life of luxury. Allah the ever watchful says, and when we decide to destroy a town, we first send a definite order to obey Allah and be righteous to those among them. Or we first increase in number those of its population who led a life of luxury. Then they transgressed therein, and thus the word of torment is justified against them. Then we destroy it with complete destruction. Surah number 17, ayah number 16. In the commentary on this ayah, it says, when the time for its destruction draws near, we command those among them who live in a life of luxury, their tyrants and their kings, to obey Allah, and then they transgress therein, thus deserving the punishment, so we destroy them. Allah singles out for mention those who live in life of luxury, although the command to obey is addressed to all people, because they are the leaders of evil and the chiefs of misguidance. What others do of sin is due to their following these leaders and being encouraged by them, so it is more apt that the command be addressed to them. This law came to pass concerning the leaders of Persia. 5.3.6 The law of Allah concerning tyrants. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says, verily your Lord is ever watchful over them. Quran number 89, Surah number 89, ayah number 14. This ayah is a warning to sinners in general. It was said that it is a warning to the kuffar, or a warning to sinners and others. In the Tafsir al-Qurtubi, it says, Allah Jalla Jalaluhu watches over each person until he either rewards or punishes him. It is clear from these comments of the Mufassirin on the ayahs that we have quoted above that the law of Allah concerning tyrants is that he sends down the punishment upon them in this world. This is consistent law which happened to the tyrants of the past and will happen to the tyrants of the present and those of the future. None of them will escape the punishment of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu in this world, just as none of them will escape the punishment of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu in the Akhirah. Moving along now to page number 264. The law of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu concerning the tyrants and the punishment that Allah has sent down on them in this world offer lessons from which those who fear Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and His punishment, and who know that the laws of Allah are consistent and are not biased towards anyone, may benefit. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says, describing those who understand His law concerning tyrants, and after mentioning the bad end that befell Fir'aun, Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, so Allah seized him with punishment for his last and first transgression. Verily, in this is an instructive admonition for whosoever fears Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. Quran numbers Surah number 79, ayah number 25-26. Thus the Persian tyrants were also subjected to the law of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, the law of gradual progress. The conquest of Iraq in eastern lands was subject to this law of gradual progress. The first stage took place during the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when Al-Hira was conquered under the leadership of Khalid ibn al-Walid. The second stage began when Abu Ubaid al-Thaqafi took over leadership of the army in Al-Iraq and lasted until the Battle of Al-Buwaid. The third stage started when Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was appointed in charge of the jihad in Al-Iraq and lasted until just before the Battle of Nahawand. The fourth stage started with the Battle of Nahawand, and the fifth stage was when the Muslims penetrated throughout the Persian lands. From the conquest, the Muslims learned the importance of paying attention to the law of gradual progress when working to support the religion of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu al-Islam. The basis for the law is the idea that the road is long, so it is essential for those who are working in the field of Islamic da'wah to understand this law. This consolidation of Islamic rule in Al-Iraq in the eastern lands did not happen overnight. Rather, it was subject to this law by Allah Jalla Jalaluhu's will. 5.3.8 The law of changing oneself. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says, the all-compassionate, what it is that He says, verily Allah will not change the condition of a people as long as they do not change the condition of their own state. Surah number 13, ayat number 11. The Sahaba, may Allah Ta'ala be pleased with them, began the conquest of Al-Iraq in the eastern lands by applying this divine principle with regard to the people who wanted to enter the Islam of Allah. So they started to teach the people according to the book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, instilling sound and beliefs and ideas and sublime characteristics in their hearts. 5.3.9 The law of Allah concerning sins and evil deeds. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu Almighty says, have they not seen how many of a generation before them we have destroyed, whom we had established on the earth, such as we have not established you, and we poured out on them rain from the sky in abundance, and we made the rivers flow under them, yet we destroyed them for their sins, and we created after them other generations. Surah number 6, ayah number 6. Allah destroyed the Persians because of their sin that they had committed, the most serious of which were kufr and shirk. This ayah speaks of an established truth and consistent law. Sins destroy those who commit them, and Allah is one who destroys the sinners because of their sins. Allah enabled the Muslimin Ummah to gain power over the Persians when they Muslimin fulfilled the conditions required for victory and acted in accordance with the laws of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. Al-Ahnaf ibn Qais changed the course of history. Umar was adamant that the army should limit itself to the conquest of Persia, and he forbade them to penetrate deeply to the east, especially after the defeat of Al-Hurmuzan and the Muslim conquest of Al-Ahwaz. Umar said, the area between the two rivers of Al-Ahwaz is sufficient for the people of Basra. I wish that between us and the Persians there was a mountain of fire, so that they would not reach us and we could not reach them. He said to the people of Kufa, I wish that between them and the mountain there was a mountain of fire, so that they would not reach us and we could not reach them. Umar discussed this matter with the delegation of, and Al-Ahnaf said to him, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, I was told that you have forbidden us to go any deeper into the land, and you have ordered us to limit ourselves to that which is already in our lands, but the Persian king is still living amongst them, and they will keep stirring up trouble for us so long as the king is still among them. No two kings ever met until one of them expels the other. I think that we did not conquer any land except as a result of their aggression. The king is the one who is inciting them, and he will continue to do so until you give us permission to penetrate their entire country and remove him from his kingdom. Then the Persians will lose hope and will give up. Umar said to Al-Ahnaf, you are right by Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and you have explained the matter to me as it is. So Umar gave them permission to penetrate throughout Persia. He gave around he came around to Al-Ahnaf's point of view and recognized its merit. So the Muslims penetrated deeply into the land. Al-Ahnaf was appointed leader of the campaign in Khorasan, and other heroes among the Mujahideen took charge of the campaign in other regions. Umar drew up the plan of war for them and supplied them with reinforcements from the rear. Moving along now to page number 269. Chapter 7, the conquest of Syria, Egypt, and Libya. The first letter to reach Syria from the Caliph Umar ibn Al-Khattab brought news of the death of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and appointed Abu Ubaidah as governor of Syria. In this letter it said, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the successor of Allah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, has died. Verily to Allah we belong, and unto him and him alone is our return. May the mercy and blessing of Allah be upon Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the one who acted in accordance with the truth, the enjoiner of good, the gentle, modest, quiet, easygoing, friendly, and wise. We seek reward with Allah for the calamity of his loss and the calamity that has befallen the Muslimin. I ask Allah Jalla Jalaluhu to protect us by means of piety and his mercy. May Allah Jalla Jalaluhu help us to obey him so long as we are alive, and admit us into paradise when we die, for he is able to do all things. We have heard that you are besieging Damascus. I have appointed you as commander of the Muslimin. Send your raiding parties out towards Homs and Damascus and other parts of Syria, and plan that as you and the Muslimins with you see fit. Do not interpret what I say as meaning that you should expose your troops to danger or give the enemy hopes of defeating you. Rather, send those whom you think you do not need, and whoever you need with you for the siege, keep them with you. Let one of those whom you keep with you be Khalid ibn al-Walid, for you cannot do without him. When the letter arrived, Abu Ubaidah called Mu'adh ibn Jabal and read the letter to him. The letter carrier said, O Abu Ubaidah, Umar says to you, tell me about Yazid ibn Abi Sufyan and Amr ibn al-As. How are they and how is their conduct? Are they being sincere towards the Muslimin? Abu Ubaidah answered, Umar's envoy and he and Mu'adh ibn Jabal wrote one letter to Umar in which they said, from Abu Ubaid and Ibn al-Jarrah and Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Umar ibn al-Khattab, peace be upon you, we praise Allah besides whom there is no other God. As far as we know, you take care of matters. Now, O Umar, you have become in charge of the affairs of the Ummah of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the red and the black. They come to you, enemies and friends, noble and ignoble, strong and weak, and every one of them has some right of justice over you. So think of how you will handle the matter. O Umar, we remind you of the day when all the secrets in people's hearts will be revealed and all concealed matters will come to light, and all people will be subjugated to the sovereign, the subduer, who will subdue them by his might. The people will submit themselves, awaiting his judgment, fearing his punishment, and hoping for his mercy. We have heard that among this ummah there will be men who are outwardly brothers but inwardly enemies, and we seek refuge with Allah from that. Do not misunderstand our letter or take it in any way other than we intended. Peace be upon you and the mercy of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. Discussion between Khalid and Abu Ubaidah. May Allah Ta'ala have mercy on both of them. Khalid came to know of the order to dismiss him from the command. He went to Abu Ubaidah and said, may Allah forgive you. The letter came from the Caliph appointing you in command, and you did not tell me. You prayed behind me when you are the one who is in charge. Abu Ubaidah says, may Allah Jalla Jalaluhu forgive you too. I did not want to tell you that until you had heard it from someone else. I did not want to interrupt your plan until you had completed it. Then I would have told you, it is not power in this world that I seek, and it is not for worldly gains that I strive. What you see will come to an end and cease to be. We are brothers carrying out the command of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. If a man's brother is appointed over him, it will not harm him, his spiritual or worldly affairs. Rather, it is more likely that the one who is in charge is closer to fitna fitna and temptation, or more likely to fall into sin because of what he is exposed to, except those whom Allah protects, of whom there are few. Then Abu Ubaidah gave Umar's letter to Khalid ibn al-Walid. Umar replied to the letter of Abu Ubaidah and Mu'adh ibn Jabal. When the letter of Abu Ubaidah and Mu'adh ibn Jabal arrived through Shaddad ibn Aus ibn Thabit, the nephew of Hassan ibn Thabit al-Ansari, Umar responded to their letter saying, I praise Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, besides whom there is no other God. I urge you to fear Allah, for that brings the good pleasure of your Lord, and it is best that you can gain for yourself. This is what smart people are eager to attain for themselves, whilst helpless people are negligent. Your letter has reached me, in which you say that as far as you know, I take care of matters. This is a kind of praise of me. You remind me that I have become in charge of the affairs of this ummah, and that noble and ignoble enemies and friends, strong and weak, sit before me, and that each of them should have his rightful share of justice. You are asking me how I will handle it. There is no power and no strength except with Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. You wrote to me telling me to fear a day that is inevitable. The alternation of night and day wears out everything new and brings near everything that is far, and brings about everything that is promised, until they bring the day of resurrection, the day on which all the secrets in people's hearts will be revealed, and all the concealed matters will come to light, and all people will be subjugated to the sovereign, the subduer, who will subdue them by his might. The people will submit themselves, awaiting his judgment, fearing his punishment, and hoping for his mercy. You say that you have heard that in this ummah there will be men who are outwardly brothers and inwardly enemies. This is not the time for that. That will happen at the end of time, when there will be hope and fear, when people will hope and fear one another. Allah has appointed me in charge of your affairs, and I seek Allah Jalla Jalaluhu's help to help me and to protect me from going astray, just as he protected others. I am a Muslim man and a weak slave, except when Allah helps me. The position to which I have been appointed will never change my character, insha'Allah. All greatness belongs to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and his slaves have nothing to do with it. Let no one among you say that Umar has changed since he was appointed Khalif. I base my actions on which I see as truth, and I explain my position to you. If any man is in need or has been wrong, I shall restore his rights with no compromise. Your well-being is dear to me, and if you get upset with me, it will be hard for me to bear. I am responsible for that with which I have been entrusted, and I will deal with any situation by myself, insha'Allah, and not delegate it to anyone else. After that, I will not seek help from anyone but those who are trustworthy, those among you who are sincere towards the people. I will not entrust anything to anyone other than them, insha'Allah. As for worldly authority, everything that you see will come to an end. We are brothers, and any one of us may lead his brothers in prayer, or may be in charge of him, and that will not affect his spiritual or worldly interest. Rather, the one who is in a position of leadership is more likely to fall into temptation or sin, except those whom Allah protects. The conquest of Damascus. The conquest in Syria during the reign of Umar ibn Al-Khattab represent the second stage of conquest in this direction, after the conquest at the time of Abu Bakr after the Battle of Yarmouk. When the Byzantines were defeated, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah appointed Bashir ibn Ka'b al-Himyari in charge of Al-Yarmouk. He heard that the defeated Byzantines were gathering in Fihl, and that reinforcements had reached Damascus from Homs. He did not know whether to start with Damascus or Fihl, which was in Jordan, so he commanded Abu Ubaid ibn al-Jarrah, which was in Jordan. So the commander, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, wrote to Umar ibn al-Khattab asking for his orders. Umar wrote back stating, start with Damascus and head towards it, for it is the fortress of Syria and the seat of their kingdom. But distract the Byzantines and Fihl by sending cavalry to face them and the people of Palestine and Homs. If Allah Jalla Jalaluhu causes us to conquer it before Damascus, that is what we want. But if its conquest is delayed until Allah enables us to conquer Damascus, then leave some troops to hold the city and take your troops to attack Fihl. Once it is conquered, then go with Khalid ibn al-Walid. Inshallah, we will stop here on page number 200 and at the beginning, actually, of page number 274. We are still very good 125 pages from the end of the series on the era of Sayyidina Umar bin Al-Khattab. But after that, directly diving into Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan will be the ideal thing. But Allah Ta'ala knows best. Inshallah, we will pick it up anyway. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik wa tabarak asmu rabbik wa ta'ala jadduk wa la ilaha ghayruk wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin والحمد لله رب العالمين